Twin Peaks Rewatch Podcast. I'm Nick.
And I'm Kim.
And I don't think we have any news. Again.
I could just say up front
okay, you can plug
about...
yourself.
Yeah,
fine.
I plug myself. So, as we have commented before, Nick has frequently made reference to Alan Wake, which is a video game highly inspired by Twin Peaks. And we have said at some point we are going to do an episode where we talk about the influences that Twin Peaks has had on subsequent media. So, if you head over to my Adverse Camber 42, currently live on Twitch, Mondays and Wednesdays at 8pm GMT and Saturdays at 5pm GMT, though also my Adverse Camber 42 YouTube channel where old episodes are put up, I am currently doing a full playthrough of Alan Wake Remastered on PlayStation 5, so you can get ahead of the game, understand Nick's references now, and also have the background when we do get to that episode.
Yes. You're possibly going to regret when we have to get to Deadly Premonition, Mazurna Falls.
I'm going to have to play that as well, aren't I?
Yeah, but both of them are going to cause you a bit more problems than Alan Wake, unfortunately.
Oh,
but
that's
we can try to sort something out. So, let's get to the Great Northern Hotel, where we left everything on a bit of a cliffhanger. So, this is May the Giant Be With You, or the first episode of Season 2. Story is by Mark Frost and David Lynch. Teleplay is by Mark Frost, directed by David Lynch, and first broadcast on the 30th of September 1990. Weirdly, that makes it like about 4 months since the last episode. So, the latest two of the Twin Peaks people don't have much to them, but we're going to just trundle along anyway. So, Harry Goes is Deputy Andy Brennan. Despite being a trained actor and everything else, he's been in almost nothing.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, the only other thing of possible interest is Erie, Indiana.
I remember that.
Yeah, the other Twin Peaks-ish children's series that exists.
Yeah.
Slightly better is Michael Horse, who plays Hawk, obviously. We've seen him in The X-Files. Did you know he was in Gargoyles?
I did not.
He was Peter or Carlos Maza.
Oh, yeah. That's, the main character's brother, I want to say.
Okay.
Because Eliza Maza is the main character.
I don't actually watch it, I just know of it. And I know you liked it.
Hmm.
And the rest of the cast is Star Trek Next Generation.
Pretty much, yeah.
Except for Patrick Stewart. I think he's the only one who's not
Pretty much, yeah.
And Malcolm in the Middle.
Okay, cool. Should probably know, if you look up Michael Horse on Instagram, he does also make jewellery. You can occasionally get stuff he has silver crafted on there.
Ooh, very nice.
So, do you want to give a synopsis first, or should I give you Margaret Lanterman's introduction first?
Let's have Margaret. What does Margaret have for us this time?
So, in the introduction to the rebroadcast episodes, this is what the Log Lady's got to say for you. Hello again. Can you see through a wall? Can you see through human skin? X-rays see through solid or so-called solid objects. There are things in life that exist, yet our eyes cannot see them. Have you ever seen something startling that others cannot see? Why are some things kept from our vision? Is life a puzzle? I am filled with questions. Sometimes my questions are answered. In my heart, I can tell the answer is correct. I am my own judge. In a dream, are all the characters really you? Different aspects of you? Do answers come from dreams? One more thing. I grew up in the woods. I understand many things because of the woods. Trees standing together, growing alongside one another, providing so much. I chew pitch gum. On the outside, let's say of the ponderosa pine, sometimes pitch oozes out. Runny pitch is no good to chew. Hard, brittle pitch is no good. But in between there exists a firm, slightly crusted pitch with such a flavour. This is the pitch I chew.
David Lynch has a thing about chewing gum, doesn't he?
I was thinking the gum you like will come back in style.
So, from the Fan Wiki, Cooper has been shot. A waiter arrives with a glass of warm milk and asks Cooper how he's doing. Cooper asks the waiter to put the milk on a table and call a doctor. The waiter, on the other hand, hangs up on Andy, and Cooper thanks him, believing he called the doctor. The waiter has Cooper sign the bill, which includes a gratuity. He warns Cooper that the milk will get cool. Cooper then has a vision of a giant. The man talks to Cooper in a gentle voice, tells him to think of him as a friend. He says he will tell Cooper 3 things and asks him to believe him if they come true. 1. There is a man in a smiling bag. 2. The owls are not what they seem. 3. Without chemicals, he points. Cooper asks what these means, but the giant replies that this is all he is permitted to say. He asks Cooper for his ring and says he will return it when Cooper finds these things to be true. The giant also says that Leo locked inside Hungry Horse, and there's a clue inside Leo's house. At One Eye Jacks, Ben tries to get into Audrey's closed bed, not knowing that Prudence is really Audrey, and that she is playing hard to get. Audrey puts on a mask before her father enters her bed, but Jerry calls Ben away before anything can happen, much to Audrey's relief. Cooper calls for Diane. He had been wearing a bulletproof vest, which took 2 of the fired shots, but he had folded it up to get a wood tick, so he was wounded by the 3rd and final shot. He says it's not as bad as long as you keep your fear from your mind. He starts listing his ambitions before he realizes his ring really is missing from his finger. Just as he loses consciousness, the officers arrive. Cooper comes to in the hospital. The wood tick had been found on the bullet extracted from his body. Harry asks Cooper if he can remember anything about the shooting, to which he replies the gunman was wearing a mask, so he didn't see their face. Lucy updates him on the events of the previous night, and he insists on leaving the hospital against Dr. Hayward's wishes. Renette Pulaski stirs in a coma. Maddie drinks coffee at the Palmer's house, and talks to Sarah about a dream she had about the rug. Leyland enters and starts singing, with his hair having turned completely white. Madeline has a vision of a body-shaped stain on the rug. Leyland then informs Ben and Jerry that he is back and willing to be their lawyer, not accountant. The officers inspect Leo's home, and Cooper analyzes the living room while Hawk finds Leo's duster in the truck. Albert arrives, and Andy hits himself in the head with a loose board, causing Albert to taunt him. Cooper, however, finds a pair of boots and a lot of cocaine under the board. Maddie and Donna meet, the former handing over a pair of sunglasses that had belonged to Laura. Madeline breaks her glasses, saying she hates them. Donna says that James spent the night in jail and orders Maddie to keep quiet. Norman leaves a letter to Donna reading, "Look into the Meals on Wheels." To complete the Margaret introduction, the log lady sits at a booth in the corner and spits out pitch gum on the wall. Albert says that Gordon Cole ordered him to return to Twin Peaks, and notes that whoever shot Cooper was right-handed between 5'6" and 5'10" tall. And he hopes to have a complete ballistics report later that afternoon. And he reports that Leo Johnson was locked in a jail cell in Hungry Horse, Montana, on the day Teresa Banks was murdered, meaning he has an alibi. The one-armed man arrives, carrying a large suitcase, and asks for Sheriff Truman, saying he wanted to sell him some shoes. Harry finishes listening to Laura's tape with James, and asks him about the cocaine in his gas tank and the tape, which he stole from Dr. Jacoby's office. James tries to cover for Donna and Maddie, and claims that he was acting alone on the break-in, and only did so because he wanted to help the investigation. James tells Harry that he thinks that it might have been Mike and Bobby putting the cocaine in his gas tank, which Harry believes to be the case too. James tells Harry that he doubts that the mystery man referred to on the tape is Leo or Jack, pointing out Laura had associated the person with fire. James remembers that Laura once told him a scary poem about fire and said, "Would you like to play with fire, little boy? Would you like to play with Bob?" Cooper enters and demands the other half of Laura Palmer's necklace. James admits to being astonished that Cooper knew about the necklace as he hands it over and explains he found it inside a coconut in Jacoby's office. Cooper is surprised to learn this as he had believed that Jacoby had nothing to do with the case. Donna visits James in jail and kisses him, despite James rebuffing her. Cooper asks Lucy and Andy to look through a pile of Fleshworld magazines for ads about Teresa Banks. Cooper comes to visit Jacoby and demands Jacoby to tell him where he got the necklace from. Jacoby admits he suspected Leo Johnson to be involved with Laura Palmer's murder, so he shadowed him as he drove his red Corvette into the woods that evening, where he lost him. He spotted James and Donna driving through the woods and decided to follow them and said to see what they're up to. He observed them and then dug up the necklace after they had left. He ponders the appropriateness of the necklace being a divided heart, saying that Laura was a divided heart herself, leading to a double life, and he believes Laura had decided to end her life, that she allowed herself to be killed that night. Cooper asks Jacoby about Jack's death, and Jacoby replies he was too out of it from his heart attack to remember much of what happened, but does recall there was a strange smell in the room, something like scorched from engine oil. Bobby visits Shirley and brings her flowers. After his visit, the officers see him leaving the room. Big Ed sits in a hallway, and Cooper talks to him privately. Ed tells him his history with Norma and Nadine, including the detail he shot out Nadine's eye on their honeymoon. James is released to Ed. Cooper sees the body bag hanging and notices that it is shaped like a smile. Bobby visits the diner and has a conversation with his father, and then realizes that Hank is in fact the person who shot Leo. Cooper discusses Laura Palmer's diary and that she made 2 appointments. They summarize their knowledge of what happened to Laura that night. Pete and Harry return to Pete's house, and Harry asks him where Josie is. She left a note saying she had to leave for emergency business in Seattle. Pete says she does this regularly and comes back with a lot of clothing. Harry says they have not found Catherine and advises them to prepare for the worst. The phone rings and a strange man asks to talk to Josie, and then, having been rebuffed, calls Hong Kong. Ben and Jerry talk about European delicacies, and Ben asks Jerry if he has seen Audrey, but he has not. They enter the office where Hank is waiting. They ask him about where Josie is and and he says she has left. He explains he could not enter Leo's house because he had to pass patrol cars on the way there, and says Leo was chopping wood inside a defensive statement with Leo's craziness. Hank says that Catherine should be dead because she was directed into the mill before the trap. Donna calls Nora about the Meals on Wheels and offers to take over Laura's route. The youngest daughter of Will and Eileen Hayward, Kirsten, dresses her parents, Leyland and Sarah Palmer, Maddie, Harriet and Donna, welcome them to the Hayward Supper Club. She says she will be playing music and brags about her test scores. But first, the middle child, Harriet, reads a poem about Laura. Leland and Sarah are moved and Kirsten plays a piece by Mendelssohn. The Palmer and Haywards discuss events and Leland sings Get Happy as Sarah cries. Leyland starts to sing faster and faster and collapses but quickly recovers and says he feels happy. Cooper makes a voice note to Diane about the necessity of sleep, while Audrey lies in bed praying to Agent Cooper. The Giant revisits Agent Cooper and apologizes for waking him and says there's something he forgot to tell him. Cooper in turn tells him he was right about the smiling bag and tries asking for more detail. The Giant stifles his questions by holding up his hand. He says, don't search for all the answers at once. A path is formed by laying one stone at a time. One person saw the third man. 3 have seen him, yes, but not his body. 1 only known to you, now ready to talk. The Giant then says he has one last thing to tell him. You forgot something. Cooper asks what it is, but the Giant holds up his hand, and there flashes a globe of light into Cooper's head. Fluorescent lights flicker in the hospital, and Renette raises her arms and thrashes around, having nightmares of Laura's final moments. The man with long grey hair screams at the sky.
Thank you. But before we begin, I've just got to get to the bottom of this.
Yep.
Donna, Harriet, and Kirsten.
Kirsten.
Who's been with us the entire time.
Yep, she's Minnie Moose. I mean, I'm surprised that Harriet came back. But no, there's something I've got to say first,
okay.
Because it's been rattling around my head since I knew this episode was coming up.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know Futurama?
Yes, I know of Futurama.
You know Futurama. You remember the episode where Bender gets his role as Calculan's son on the soap opera All My Circuits?
Oh, yes.
So, if you've never watched Futurama, basically it's a soap opera, robot soap opera, which Bender is a big fan of and most of the cast watch.
It's very much the Days of Our Lives.
Yeah, or Dallas, or it's something, it's got the absurd expected soap opera plot twists.
Mm.
And during one of the broadcasts, the person playing the main character's son has a breakdown on set. They say breakdown, and it's like he's just gone on the fritz and he's just basically broken.
Because he's a robot.
So they hold open auditions, and Bender, of course, wants to be on the TV show and manages to manipulate events so that he is the only viable person auditioning for this role.
Yes.
So they get him onto the show. He does one take, and they say that was so bad. I won't complete the rest of it because it's a slightly poor taste joke, but so bad. But they have to accept it because Calculon only does one take. So he storms off. Next day, Bender comes in and says, we've decided to change your role. And it's like, does my character now have a British accent? No, your character's in a coma, got on the bed and lying under the sheet. Leo Johnson.
Yeah.
Because we don't even see him in this episode, but yeah.
You know he's in a coma.
I know he's in a coma, but he's in a coma. We can't have him saying anything anymore, so now he's in a coma. Possibly a bit harsh.
You've really got the coma trope down in Twin Peaks, because there's at least 4 characters currently in a coma, I think.
There are so many people in comas, although Renette seems to be waking up.
Which is interesting, because Renette is the only one who can potentially ID Laura Palmer's killer.
Yeah, and I do want to comment on this, because this is one of these weird things where if you know about how Twin Peaks works, this episode is kind of like just treading water almost, isn't it? You're getting clues and portents for what's going on. But I gotta wonder in the audience in 1990, watching the end of this episode saying, oh, that guy killed Laura Palmer. Look, he's right there and seems to be stabbing her.
You must have known something was up, though, because that in its own would be such a poor twist.
Yeah.
It's that guy we saw once at the start of the first episode who isn't actually a character. It was him the entire time.
Yes.
So you must, at the back of your mind, think, no, David Lynch is smarter than this. This isn't what we're going with.
Yeah, and again, it's the things like we can point out that the pilot makes this really complicated because he's in there in a slightly different capacity.
Mm.
But we've seen him a bunch of times. We know he's there because of multiple production errors, and they've rolled with it.
And I'm not sure if it's the first time, but now we can deduce the fact his name is Bob as well.
Yes. And that Laura Palmer was well aware of him before her death.
Yes, because of Laura Palmer's comments about, do you want to play with Bob?
Yeah. It's like, no, I think I'm good. He looks scary. He may be what's he?
He's something like a set dresser
Yeah,
or something like that.
He looks terrifying.
It's a really great happenstance that
It is.
his appearance in Twin Peaks was a pure accident, and he's just got that real, it feels harsh to say it, but kind of serial killery vibe about him.
Yeah, he's got a very a malicious drifter look to him. You
Yeah.
can imagine him sort of just coming to town, bad things happen, and off he goes again.
This sort of, who's the one in The Stand? Randall Flagg?
Randolph Flagg.
He's got that sort of aesthetic, I feel.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
This Stephen King-esque sort of slightly duplicitous killer. I can't really describe that vibe.
Yeah.
But there's always a character of that ilk in Stephen King's ensemble pieces anyway.
Yes. I am really curious as though to how it went down in the 90s, because it's just I had the answer spoiled for me well before I got to this point, obviously, so I knew who killed Laura Palmer.
And I guessed and you confirmed it, so
Yeah.
I knew.
You knew as well. But it's one of those, how many people would have worked it out back in the day, and also what would this episode have done to your conclusions at this point? Because the last episode we had that list of everyone of everyone's odds or the percentage of people who believed each person was the killer. And obviously, the grey-haired man that Sarah Palmer saw in her vision was not on the list.
You know, admittedly, I'm going with the hindsight of knowing who it is, but I think you could have a fairly decent stab of it at this point.
There's enough to sort of say they might be starting to run down the options and think we've got to start leveling.
Yeah, you might not be able to say 100%, but you can certainly rule out a lot of the cast. I think we commented last time that you couldn't get it down to about 6 people it could be at this point.
Yes, and of those, only a few of them actually are even remotely plausible.
Yeah. Unless you are really gonna pull it out your backside and have Bob be the killer.
Yes. And again, the pilot just does have that, which is what always throws me slightly, because it's not as if this was an unheard of quantity.
I did think that when we went through that list, there was an obvious omission on there that no one seemed to have hit on, was Mike.
Yeah, I suppose so. I think it's because he's in it so little.
But you've seen things like him lurking around the hospital.
Yes, it should be a bit more suspicious.
Mm.
I would bet it's because people didn't actually figure out how to refer to him. Like, he might have been missed in, like, the sub-category of missed people of, they sort of said the one-armed man or something, and other people said the shoe salesman.
Interestingly, this is the first episode where he was credited by name and not credited as the one-armed man.
Okay, interesting.
Mm.
Well, it's certainly introduced him very sinisterly in this one, but we rewind a bit, so we'll try and do the people in order. So we've
Starting with Gersten, right? I'm not letting Gersten drop.
Gersten. Well, okay. Do we want to start with Gersten, or not Cooper?
We're getting to Gersten, right?
We'll get to Gersten. Don't worry. We start with Cooper just because that's the biggest cliffhanger I think the episode left off on last time was that Cooper's been shot. We're pretty sure he's not going to die, but what's going to happen?
I don't know. We could have, is it J.R. Irving'd him?
Yes, I suppose we could have done. Although that cliffhanger was always slightly differently because that was the who shot him and then he was still dead afterwards. He's not the one who turned up in the shower.
Is that not J.R. Irving?
That's not him. That's a different character.
I've never actually watched Alice,
Neither
but I
have
kind
I.
of assumed that was him.
Yeah, Who Shot JR was stuck in place and the Simpsons kind of mocked that with Who Shot Mr. Burns.
Yeah.
Though JR did not survive.
Okay, so he's not the one who comes back.
He's not the one who they killed off and then, as far as I'm aware, I admittedly have got this all through pop culture osmosis, but as far as I'm aware, they are different characters.
Okay, I always assumed it was the same one.
You made a comment partly through this, and I was thinking exactly the same thing of, this is a feature-length episode of Twin Peaks, and there's no good reason for it to be like this.
No, I don't think it really gained anything from being double length. We didn't cram more than the normal episodes within there, I don't think.
No, there's a lot of really long extended takes, there's a lot of silences, and it's one of the weird ones where I want to put a pin in that because this is the experience you're going to get a bit further down the line.
Oh dear.
Isn't it?
It's a about what I expect of David Lynch, to be fair. David Lynch likes atmospheric long shots, scene setting, and sequences where there's very little dialogue.
But then also extended comedy bits, like Andy being concussed, goes on way too long.
It was weird, that bit where he's smacked in the face, and then you just have a good couple of minutes of him staggering from side to side.
Well,
whereas normally you just have a quick shot of him going, whoa, and then that would be it.
I mean, come back to Cooper then. I think it's interesting that David Lynch is here, and this episode kind of feels like a course correction in some ways. Not that the first season exactly veered off course, but it feels like when David Lynch comes in, he tries to wrestle the series back into something more of his vision.
Yeah.
And his vision has changed subtly from the pilot now, as a lot more focus on the darkness. And there's a comment that he didn't really want to make a TV series in the first place, and I do feel a kind of jadedness of, I don't want to be here for this anymore.
Yeah.
And it feels like he's trying to push the audience to reject what he's doing now.
Mm.
And I think it could be a case of revival later. Is very much a case of, is he just seeing how far he can push everyone now?
I thought it was interesting, and I don't dislike it, but we previously had the triumvirate of the things that were said in the Red Room of the birds sing are pretty strong, the gun will come back in style.
Yeah.
We haven't resolved all those things yet,
No.
but now we're introducing three more truths.
Yes, by an equally cryptic source.
Well, more than three, actually, because he adds the extra couple on the end about the third man.
Yes, and Leo and Hungry Horse, and there's something you've forgotten.
Mm.
But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to note the episodes that David Lynch is involved with going forward, because he does this one. I'm pretty sure he does the reveal. And then I think he's largely absent until the final few, or in fact the final episode or something.
Okay.
And it's very much, it's seeing what Twin Peaks does without him around. I think it kind of veers off from what he wants it to be.
We've always commented on the fact that people latched onto the murder mystery element of it, but that wasn't his intended focus.
No, but I think this is him trying to do the murder mystery, but make it as unpalatable as possible, or as awkward as possible to cope with.
Well, there was that long period, and I think it went on forever, and now we'll never get a resolution where he wouldn't explain the meaning behind Eraserhead.
Yes.
And you get the similar idea here now of making something so layered and complex that people are still discussing it today, what the deeper meanings there were. Which is interesting because it's not something you normally see on mainstream TV. I mean,
No.
Eraserhead's an art house film.
You don't normally let David Lynch near this, but then it's kind of like you don't let Johan Vasquez near this either, and yet people did, and I don't understand it.
Zim.
How do you look at Johnny the Homicidal Maniac and say, this man needs a TV series for children? It's like, what are you talking about? Yet, I adore Zim. I think it's fantastic, but I don't understand how it exists. I am wondering about Lynch, though, in terms of that thing that you said about the murder mystery not being what he wanted to focus on. We'll talk about this down the line, obviously, but does that factor into who the killer actually is? Is that why that was chosen, just to make it that bad?
I have a theory about this, but I can't mention it until we actually know who the killer is.
We'll get to it, but I think
put a pin in that.
We'll speculate on that.
I have my TED talk about this ready.
Yeah, I have a sneaky suspicion I've got the same kind of thought now. Meanwhile, Mark Frost is just here, just gluing everything together, apparently.
Cooper. Doing a perfectly good job of it, to be fair.
But I mean, it also extends to the scene with the waiter. Isn't desperately funny and is kind of surreal, but then just keeps on going. And there's a real theatrical feel to it, I felt, in this part and a load of later scenes. Because it's like, the waiter's waiting for a cue that Coop isn't doing. And that's why he keeps coming back on and walking off again.
And doing the same gesture, the wink and the thumbs up.
And then just sort of giving the same line each time. It's like this is a theatrical performance.
Yeah, it's very kind of Samuel Beckett almost.
Yeah.
It's the kind of thing you'd expect to be in something like Waiting for Godot.
Yes. And also, because it's one of the things that people make a big thing of in, I can't believe this is coming up again, Neon Genesis Evangelion.
It's amazing how we always come back to that.
It is, but it's like one thing a lot of critics pointed out is an awful lot of staging, especially when the series got increasingly surreal towards the end. It's all done like theatrical productions. You've got spotlights, you've got isolated people on stages and things, and weird pullbacks to reveal that they're not in a normal space.
Yeah.
And The scene with the giant in this one is when the lights fade, it's not doing the usual cross-fading on TV screen kind of thing, like where you transpose two scenes. They're literally dimming the lights in the room.
Yeah.
That's a theatrical trick. That's theatrical presentation.
Yeah, very much.
And you don't normally do that for TV. That's kind of weird.
It gives it a very, very distinct look, though. It's
It
kind
does.
of ethereal, but still grounded in reality.
Yeah. It's just that when you have special effects and you can just do things across different time spans, you just don't bother with it usually. It's actually very weird to do it like that.
Mm.
But anyway, Cooper is still alive and having the most surreal...
I
time of
love
his
that
life.
whole sequence with the waiter. I think it's wonderful.
I think it's just too long. I like it as we're going to defy all your expectations for the opening of the season.
Mm.
And just string you along for 5 minutes.
I also like the repetitions of not fearing, because it's very much the June.
Yes, I was thinking that.
I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer.
Is that a nod to June?
It's got to be.
Given who it is and who's directing it and everything else. I would say I still am baffled it took them that long for the police to get to the Great Northern.
It was Andy on the phone.
It was only on the phone, but that's literally multiple hours later. When
Agent Cooper, you're okay? You okay? Andy, you must have heard the 3 gunshots.
Yeah, the 3 gunshots. And while we know, because we had to look it up, who did the shooting, we're still kind of baffled as to why they did the shooting, but we'll come to that later, hopefully,
When they reveal.
when they reveal that.
I love that sequence where he insists on getting up, though, and then just says something like, just give me a couple of hours to get dressed.
Yes. And I think that's one of the odd points, is that with the revival especially, you tend to think of David Lynch as being no fun allowed in Twin Peaks. It's not really ever true that Mark Frost is the comedy guy and Lynch is the serious guy, because look at the pilot, look at the first few episodes you directed, look at bits of this one, but you don't think of David Lynch as being funny, do you?
We haven't got to David Lynch's character in this series, but I think he's your case point
Yeah.
for David Lynch being funny. In
But
fact, he plays one of the most comedic characters in it.
He does, but when we've heard him, we have heard his voice.
Mm.
But then again, I don't know if he directed that, if that's him being directed by someone else to be like
But
that.
at the same time, it is him doing
It
it,
is
which
him
shows
doing
he's got a sense of humour.
I suppose we'll go for Firewalk
If you were Precious, he wouldn't have played that role,
That's
would
true. Firewalk with Me is he directed that, and he's Golden Call in that, so that loops around, so that works out. But the general impression, though, is that David Lynch isn't a whole bundle of laughs, though, is it?
Is your entire impression, though, the fact that he made things like Eraserhead?
And Firewalk with Me, and to an extent June, which is pretty self-serious. And then actually very unfamiliar with some of his related back catalogue, which people rate very highly. Coop does FBI stuff. Is there much more to say about Coop on this one, other than we are kind of on him? He's forgotten about Audrey's note. Just completely dropped off his mind.
We do see that, well, he was shot. But
He was shot.
we see that at the end of the episode when Audrey has a monologue saying, have you found my note? And we realise it's still under his bed.
Yeah. They're quite why it's under his bed, because it was on the desk next to the phone before.
I presume it must have got knocked when he fell.
Yeah. At the same time, though, I think it was debatable when the giant says you've forgotten something, if that's Ronette Pulaski or the note,
Yeah, it could be either of them.
given they then cut to Ronette afterwards. I like to think it's a note.
And we've still got a couple of the giant's truths that Coop's evidently going to have to discover as he goes, because the smiling bag is the only one I think that we've revealed in this episode.
Yeah.
So what were our other ones? We've got the owls are not what they seem.
Well, okay, that will become more and more true later.
I think the log lady already mentioned it once, that you can't trust birds
Well,
or
she
something
said the
like
owls
that.
can't see us in here. It's
The
been
owls can't
alluded
see us in
to,
here, that's it.
but not explained.
And then there was
Without chemicals, he points.
chemicals, he points, yeah.
I think, as you said, it's that we want some new clues to keep things going. At the same time, no one can deal with the gum you like will come back in style.
Yeah, we've still got to come back to that one.
It?
Well, could it be the log lady now? You pointed out her pitch gum.
Is she stylish?
Yes, absolutely yes.
Okay.
Time for Gersten then.
Okay, we do Gerst. I don't know
Where's she come from, Nick?
And why is she called Gersten?
It's like the name you've made out. Here are my two children, Kirsten and Gersten.
I'm still quite flummoxed that we actually got the other sister back, as I thought she was gone.
When they rolled in Gersten, I thought, oh my god, what have they done to the other sister?
I know, but she's right there. She's standing still in England.
But apparently, all I can assume is Gersten mentioned the fact that now she's doing way better in maths and whatever, that we've been keeping Gersten in the basement until she's got good enough to be rehabilitated into the rest of the family.
Well, to be fair, the family don't like her, given they made her play music while they're eating.
They all eat while Gersten plays the piano.
It's kind of... It's such a weird...
Also the fact that she's very keen to live up to the brilliance of her two sisters, yet apparently she's the savant pianist of the family.
Yeah. Donna has never been remarked upon as a sort of genius or anything, has she?
Neither's Harriet.
True, but Harry at least has had an interest in poetry the entire time.
Yeah.
Donna's schoolwork never merited mention once.
I just love the fact that this extra Hayward has come out of nowhere that we never knew existed.
Yes. I suppose actually we should take stock of our cliffhanger people, actually. So we've got a list of people who are left in limbo. Leo, we've kind of blown. He's in a coma. We don't get to see him, but he's in a coma.
We know Pete Martell and Shelley are both okay, though they're in hospital for a lot of the episode because of smoke inhalation.
Yeah, and Pete just gets discharged well before Shelley, who should have worse smoke inhalation, really.
Shelley seems fine, though.
She does.
Pete looks quite poorly when they send him off.
He keeps coughing, yeah. It's an odd... I think it... You might sort of say, do we not want to show the attractive woman coughing for some reason?
Just imagine that Seinfeld one with how unsexy a cough is.
Yes. Well, no, while naked.
While naked, yeah.
The nudist. You've got to put that bit in.
Oh, Catherine's missing in action.
Catherine's missing in action. Oh, Catherine is missing, presumed dead.
She's presumed buried under all the rubble, but hasn't been found.
Yeah, and Josie just ran away.
Just ran straight out of the plot there.
Yeah, she's still in the credits, though.
Well, to be fair, we're pretty sure she's coming back, given that the shady Chinese, I think he was, businessman is looking for her.
Well, he has to talk to someone in Hong Kong, and you can read that different ways depending on how you want to view these things. I think he's a different guy to the guy who checked in at the literal end of the last episode.
Okay.
But don't hold me to that one. I don't think he's the same guy. So everything is up in the air. And Leland's interesting in this one, I think. For a start, murder has made his hair turn white.
Overnight.
Actually, sorry, pause there a second. Did it feel to you that this was something like Arrested Development Season 4?
Which one's Season 4?
That's the first Netflix one where basically they had the 10-year gap and then had all the individual storylines.
Oh, is that the one where like every character gets an episode and they're all kind of intertwined? Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, the one that was out of format and then they went back to it for the next one after that. But it's been 5 months, but it's got the feeling of there's been years between these two series.
Yeah.
It's a really odd feeling, I think. Presumably it's David Lynch, but it's like the encounter with Jerry and Blackie just feels like it's come out of nowhere.
Oh, where Jerry kind of
insults her and then gives her heroin.
Yeah.
And then it's like, Blackie, you showed... Where did this addiction thing come from? Because this wasn't going on last time. And
also the insecurity of Blackie in this one as well. Because Jerry tells her she's not attractive anymore and it really hits her.
Yeah, it feels like you're trying to pick up after you've half forgotten where you left things off.
Yeah. I did feel that was a bit jarring. But Leland even more so, where he's like a completely different character now.
Well, you noted he's changed professions, which is really baffling.
Has he? Did I get it wrong?
You swore blind he was the accountant.
I've been saying from the start he's an accountant. I'm starting to doubt myself now. But I'm sure in the first episode he introduces himself as the accountant. But now he's a lawyer. Maybe I misheard, but I'm not going to say it 100%. I'm starting to doubt my memory of this.
Well, I was like, we were trying to figure out why he was around Ben, and the accountant made the most sense.
Well, he's the lawyer now. Or always has been, I'm not sure. But he's very chipper now.
He's very chipper.
Murder will do that to him. Well, I suppose in his mind he believes he's avenged Laura now.
Yes, I mean, you could also given you made that comment about his expression changing, it's whether he actually knows he actually did that as well. Whether, like, internally he's lifted some pressure and he's sort of, not schizophrenia, like, he's in denial about what he's done. That scene, as much as it looks like there's a way of doing it, also felt really theatrical because he comes out from behind that screen.
Oh, I did look at that. You can see from some angles that there is another doorway there. He hasn't just been standing behind the screen the entire time.
But the way it's framed, it does look like he was just waiting. He's like a theatrical cue, waiting to come on and do his bit.
Mm.
I think we'll dwell on Maddie a minute, because Maddie's trajectory seems to be going strange, and I'm wondering, is it if you look like Laura Palmer, you're doomed?
She seems to be getting more and more Laura-like. The refusal to wear her glasses.
Yeah, and I think it's one thing just to sort of ape her style with the sunglasses, though. It's one of those problems of saying, look, this is how Laura Palmer looked. We've never seen Laura Palmer in sunglasses. But it's like, as you said, it's like, Maddie, don't you need those glasses to see?
She does wear them all the time, which infers the fact that she's short-sighted.
Yeah, long-sighted. She needs glasses for some reason. But she's decided to dispense with them. But now she's having visions in the Palmer house.
There are a lot of visions in this episode, in fact.
I'm wondering if it's the Palmer house, or it's the family, or it's the forces of darkness.
I did think that vision of the carpet's kind of curious. I'm not sure where that's going.
No. I think the visions of Laura are also kind of interesting, because it kind of ties into the half-remembered, half-flippant comment before about her being corrupted by darkness. And that really seems to be feeding into it, because she's not... There's no damsel in any of those shots of her at the end there. That really... She looks terrified.
Or possessed.
Yeah, something's really wrong in a way that we haven't suspected before of what was happening towards the end of her life. But
you kind of got that a bit in James's testimony as well, where he remembers a time that they went into the woods and she started reciting a creepy poem and then said something about, do you want to play with fire, little boy?
Do you want to play with Bob?
Yeah.
I think it's one thing that's going to be left up in the air is like how much of this, why Laura Palmer was targeted in the way she was. But is it something like that? At the moment, I'm kind of thinking the forces of darkness wanted to possess her, and it didn't work for whatever reason, or they couldn't make it work, and that's why they had to kill her.
Yeah.
And one thing I'll admit to right now is, having watched Twin Peaks a good few times, it's amazing how much of it you forget every time. Because it seems like the locket, which I didn't think we were ever going to get a resolution to, and we just have. It's unsatisfying, and I'm pretty sure it was, again, David Lynch said, this is...
Just trying to put it to bed.
Yeah, this isn't a good plot line, let's just kill it. Whichever one of you wrote the script with Jacoby having the locket, why did you do that? We can't do anything with this. The tapes make sense, the locket doesn't.
Yeah, well, there were just some tiny character details that you laughed when we got to the story about what happened to Nadine's. I remembered that one. But evidently you forgot that was coming too.
No, before any cast judgment here, I'm not laughing at the story. I'm laughing at Albert, who's a treat in that scene. Every one of his reactions.
Unable to contain himself during the incredible tragic story of Big Ed and Nadine.
It's the first time he sort of looks up shocked as they get to the development point of the story. It's Miguel Ferreira, absolutely amazing performance as the guy who did not see this coming.
I love it for a monologue, the fact that you're going into the absolute soap opera melodrama of the story of Big Ed and Nadine just gets worse and worse by the second and more melancholic.
Yeah, and how he and Norma would have been fine had he had like a trifle more patience.
Yeah, it was a shotgun wedding immediately on Norma cheating on him.
Yeah, and she didn't effectively really.
Well, it was an emotional affair more so. She hadn't actually slept with him, he'd learnt at the time. But he'd gone off, had the shotgun wedding, and then on the honeymoon managed to accidentally shoot out his new bride's eye while he was contemplating how to go about a divorce. Yeah. And therefore this cementing them together now, because essentially he's mutilated this woman and now feels kind of indebted to being there.
Yeah, it's the explanation, because presumably people kept saying, why is Big Ed still with her? And it's okay, we've got to give her him a really decent reason why he refuses to leave this woman.
The fact he shot her eye out, is it?
It's pretty effective. Yeah. You can't really get more than that.
Yeah, it might be a bit harsh when she's lying there with one eye and you say, I'd like a divorce, honey.
Yes.
But then again, it's that American nuclear family thing as well, because you could raise the argument of why is Pete still with Catherine?
Yes.
Because he's got quite an emotional speech in this one where he said something like, most of the time living with her is hell, but there is also that bit of heaven.
Yeah.
So you have the complexity there and the kind of totally misplaced loyalty, but also this kind of thing that people of a certain generation didn't even consider divorce.
Yeah, despite the fact you'd be largely happier if you went through with it.
Yeah.
Miguel Ferrer is my sort of MVP of the episode, just for every one of that little scene, every one of his reactions, like the horrible coffee, and then just try not to laugh and just being shocked.
I actually liked the Albert scene where Andy stands up to him too, because it shocks him speechless.
Yes.
And it's the first time you've seen Albert not kind of snap back.
Yeah.
The bit where Andy loses his temper.
That was nice. I did think that scene was also really odd for a framing.
The one with the 8 million donuts.
It wasn't even donuts, but it's like Coop's on the wrong end of the table. Because you've got Coop and Albert down one end, and Twin Peaks Sheriff's Department down the other end. And there's the miles of donuts between them. And it's like, Coop, you don't believe in Albert anymore. You should be down the other end of the table. It's like, I'm not sure why the divide was there.
Yeah. Because Albert's wonderful.
He is wonderful, but I mean, it's one of those instances where he's a really awful person, but you're just cheered to see him turn up because it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And it's a real difficult balancing act to actually get that to be someone you want to see more of. Because a lot of time you'd be just wholesale on Andy and Truman's side. This one, it's like, yes, come on, bait him.
It's kind of interesting because it's like you say, you normally don't root for the bullies.
No.
But there's just something about Albert's delivery, I think.
It's a very particular performance they've got him to do, and it works sort of astonishingly well.
I think it's because he's not targeting one person either. He's like that with literally everyone.
Yeah, he hates the entire town. Everyone in it wants nothing to do with it. But he's got to come back. Due to the slightly suspect FBI regulations that's making him come here.
I like the evidence that Albert is good at his job as well, because of he inspects Cooper and instantly knows all these things about the shooter. You know, their height, their handedness and stuff like that, because he's evidently very skilled and can do this at a glance, basically.
Yes. It's an interesting quirk that he's a consummate professional. He won't hold back his personal opinion, but he will do his job.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting an interesting quirk to Albert. I have noticed that basically he has a team, and that team aren't gonna say or do anything.
Would you dare?
Well, no, but they don't even get little character moments in the background.
I've noticed this about the backgrounds in Twin Peaks, and I point out to you watching it as well, is they're very static.
You said in the diner that no one was moving.
Yeah, you see it in a lot of the scenes, but it's particularly was obvious in that scene with Major Briggs and Bobby in the diner, is you can't even see people talking in the background, they're just sat motionless.
Yeah.
And once you see it, it becomes really, really jarring. Because, usually extras are kind of prompted to, look like they're actually going through the motions, even if it's mute.
Yeah.
So they're still moving, they're still, food is rising to mouths, they're still looking animated. But just that stacked, it was just very uncanny.
And presumably entirely deliberate.
I would expect so, yeah. I think the problem is, for the length of this episode, there isn't really much advancement of plot beyond the Giant's proclamation.
Yes, and I was going to say one thing, if you're familiar with Twin Peaks, basically how it shakes out. At this point in time, though, we don't know, other than being the polar opposite of the man from the other place, as he is known, we don't know why the Giant exists, or why he isn't talking backwards.
I think the difference as well is you get the impression that he is not the same as the man from the other place. It's not just the backwards talk, it's the way he appears.
Yeah.
That the man from the other place is deeply, deeply, almost nightmarish sinister, but the Giant's appearance is incredibly gentle.
That's true. And the man from the other place is locked in a dreamscape. He's not appeared physically at all.
No.
Whereas the Giant has actually turned up and taken Coop's ring
Well, he's got some physical presence because he takes the ring.
Yeah. And you can go on a limb. I think it's reasonably safe to just sort of say he is on Coop's side, or at least wants to help him. You do get into, there's some kind of cosmological bureaucracy or rules. You can't just tell Coop the solution. You have to come at it from really stupid angles. The differences are quite distinct as well, though, just because the man from the other place gave Coop some clues, but not all of them, because the Laura Palmer thing gave him the other ones.
Well, the Laura Palmer thing is kind of interesting because, admittedly, it's in the nightmare, but we have seen that other variant of Laura Palmer, and now we've seen, let's call her possessed Laura, the screaming vision of her as well.
Yeah.
We're getting all these different facets and this weird duality there.
Yes. I don't know if I can't really take credit because we have watched the series before, but it's kind of odd that we sort of just hit on that before. So even not from remembering how some of this worked, because I couldn't quite remember how, why. And I certainly don't remember ever seeing the moment of the murder in quite that detail before. Because I think even Firewalker's
I don't
Me...
remember that vision.
I think Firewalker's Me even errs and sort of tries to cut around a bit, because it's... Well, Firewalker's Me has less holds barred, but still, I don't think I remember seeing as much of it. I mean, maybe we'll be shocked and we'll get the same scene replayed in full. But no, I don't remember seeing anything quite that clear about what happened at the end there. Laura Palmer's screaming banshee mode.
It's also very subtle, but you do kind of see the assault on Runette Penalowski during that sequence as well, or at least you see Killer Bob repeatedly smashing something down to something. You assume that's the blunt force trauma that Runette got.
True. Oh, I thought it was Laura, though you can interpret different ways. Because Albert or Coop says that Renat was knocked out with one blow and then assumed to be dead, and all the damage was done to Laura. So we don't know at this point.
But it's almost animalistic. It's almost like a chimpanzee attack or something, what you witnessed in that bit.
Yeah. And one thing to put a pin in, and I know that the pilot does answer this one, is the letters under the fingernails.
What letters do we have? It's an R and a T?
Yes, but with reverse, we have the T first and the R now.
Okay.
Because Laura didn't get a letter, did she? Renette does. I think, or was it the way round? No,
Laura has the letter.
Laura has the letter, Renette
I don't
doesn't.
think Renette does.
Yeah.
But then again, Renette wasn't murdered.
Yes. We don't know what's going on with that. The end of the episode is really, really dark in a way that I don't think Twin Peaks actually veered into before.
It was almost horror movie-esque, that bit.
Yeah.
And it's never really been horror before.
Yeah, and again, that comes back to my thing of, is David Lynch really trying to push what he can get away with? What's acceptable is just to go all out on this really macabre detail that you've been kind of spared, because Laura Palmer's death has always been this kind of ambiguous past event that we've never thought you'd ever see any of. And again, I'm still curious as to what audience 1990 thought of the grey-haired man smashing down at something off camera.
Yeah.
Anyone saying, "Oh, did he kill Laura Palmer? Is that it? Is that the solution?" There's so much more series to go.
How many more songs can we get Leyland to sing?
A number. well, we still got some weird song stuff to do in the future.
I love Maisie Dokes. Maisie Dokes is the song that I always think of when I think of Leyland Palmer. Just him exuberantly singing it, walking around the house just after we've all seen him with his white hair now.
It's very clear from the end that he's in denial to some degree. How much he's conscious of what he did is not clear.
He just mentions that he feels like a weight has lifted.
Yeah.
It's unclear if he can remember killing Jocks or he's completely blotted out and just woken up and suddenly felt better. Because on a subconscious level, he knows he's avenged Laura.
Yeah, I do think it's odd that they keep saying Jock was strangled when he was smothered. Very deliberately suffocated, so I don't know quite what that's about.
Yeah. It might just be a misnomer of, they're both asphyxiation.
I suppose so, but then not to be true crime and everything, but, strangulation tends to leave marks on the throat.
I absolutely would, yeah.
So, there's no...
Whereas, at least in CSI, if someone's smothered, they normally find, particles in the mouth and stuff like that.
So, again, it's that weird feeling that there's been a larger time gap here, and people have forgotten what happened. It's a really odd sensation.
So maybe Leyland was an accountant the entire time.
Well, maybe he was. Who can say? There's a running gag which I think harkens back to your point about always making something weird be in the scene, which is the hospital food is inedible.
Oh, the green sludge.
Which I think is a common joke at the time, but good God, what is in those trays?
I love the bit where, an orderly makes a comment about it.
It's the doctor saying, look, have a order with the chef again. It's like, what is going on in this hospital?
It's like the fish in the percolator all over again.
Yeah, I think this one's even less explicable, though. I don't know if it's worth dwelling on Bobby and Shelley other than they're very adorable together.
I think they're a cute couple.
They're very cute. And presumably could be happier now that Leo is in a coma. James.
Yes, I've been meaning to bring out your comment about James while we were watching this.
So, we've ragged on James quite a lot. We've ragged on Leo and we've ragged on James, and people tend to not like Grace Zabinski, who's Sarah Palmer. Sarah Palmer either.
I always feel bad for Sarah Palmer because really,
She doesn't have anything to do.
her two modes are fish-eyed stare and wailing uncontrollably, and this is all they've given her to work with.
Exactly.
So I don't really feel you can judge her that harshly.
But for reasons that defy explanation, other than he's had 5 months to get some acting lessons, is James is acting.
He's very animate in that scene where he's being interviewed.
It's just such a sudden contrast to how he was before.
Yeah. Let's hope he keeps it up.
Yes, it's well done, James. You can keep on doing this. But we have a mystery that we need to keep an eye on as well, which is Donna is given a note to say, look into the meal on wheels, which is probably one of the least subtle hints that Twin Peaks has ever given
I think
anyone.
it may be a clue, yeah.
But we have no idea who sent that and why. Okay, so I'm reliably informed we'll find out who sent the note, and I'm going to go either, the what?
I'm going to comment on my favourite bit of comedy in this episode is Andy and Lucy having to go through all the Fleshworld magazines together.
Yeah, I did kind of like that. Oh, we're professionals. So like, well, the first page.
It's just Lucy's face when she opens it after feigning professionalism and then just has this look of wide-eyed horror.
One thing that kind of gets me about that is we have actually seen the pages of Fleshworld, like in brief glimpses and everything, but it's a black and white magazine and the pictures are actually quite small. Because I think that's the other thing, is that there are points, though, I'm not sure if people remember that Fleshworld is meant to be basically Craigslist on paper and not a pornographic magazine.
I was thinking it's more like a classified, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's presented usually as, it's just hardcore pornography, and it's like, but that doesn't make sense for your earlier plot lines.
This could be... We, in our household, make fun of this budget horror movie called The Haunting at the Beacon a lot.
Oh, yes.
Because it has a subplot with a woman's secret shame being the pornography she's done, and it's the most clothed pornography you have ever seen.
She's not ashamed of it at all.
Oh,
She's
no,
perfectly
true.
happy.
But they try to use it to blackmail her in the plot, and it's the most clothed pornography you've ever seen.
Yeah.
But I guess it's the kind of middle America sensibilities of, if you're showing a bit of shin, that's pornographic.
I don't think she's even shown her shins. I think you can see her neck, maybe.
But this is Fleshworld, isn't it? Where you've got this kind of prim, proper, all-American view of your sensibilities where, only your husband sees this in the bedroom. And then you've got this magazine where a woman's showing a bit of shin. It's,
Well, I'm pretty sure I got to see
hardcore.
You got to see some of Laura's shoulder with a minor bird on it for some reason.
Hardcore, that.
Hardcore. I suppose, actually, the last person we've got really is Audrey, who
is kind of a prisoner of the One-Eyed Jacks now.
Yeah, it's one of these things where illegal brothel, you're gonna be dicing with this kind of alarming situation. This feels like inevitable.
You feel they've let the other girls go home at some point, though? They're not just trapped there?
Well, you'd like to think so, but we don't know. But again, you're across the Canadian border. No one actually knows she's there. I don't know what she can do. But
I love that super awkward resolution for the bit where she's going to have to sleep with her dad.
Yeah, that was very much. I'd like to think of it as like the Return of the Jedi plot. Is that you've just thrown the pinless grenade towards someone, and they've got to do something, and they don't know quite how they're going to resolve it, but they've got to do something. I don't know if it's good or bad that Audrey's only belatedly realizing exactly how deep of a hole she's thrown herself into head first.
Yeah.
Because, again, I suppose it speaks to that dichotomy she's always had of she's the femme fatale, but she's not wise. She's intelligent, but she doesn't have wisdom.
Yeah. It's not being worldly, I think.
Yeah, and not realizing quite how she could get stuck in the position she's wound up in. But also, I think, is she knowingly pushing Blackie's buttons by saying, oh, the owner wasn't my type? And it's like, Audrey, you do understand brothels, right? How this works is your choice in the matter is, for better or worse, is not really taken into consideration. I'm sure there are, in our more enlightened times, there's probably more ethical ways of doing this, but in the 90s, this is very much, as you said, akin to prison. Whereas you don't get a choice in the matter. They paid money, you're going to have to put up with it. Poor Audrey. I've no idea how she gets out of this.
Maybe Coop will eventually find the letter?
Oh, maybe. I mean, again, season 2 of this series is actually kind of a weird void, and it's not just because some of it is almost unwatchable at points. We'll get to that. I think Audrey's not in this episode enough, but then I could probably say about most episodes.
I think it's a pretty solid episode on the whole, to be fair.
It's a good opener. I think it actually resolves most of the cliffhangers, and I imagine, I keep going back to it, but I imagine at some point a lot of people excitedly after watching this episode said, "I know who killed Laura Palmer. It's that guy with grey hair," and then got really annoyed as that becomes increasingly questionable conclusion.
I still think that would be a weak solution of it's that guy that Sarah Palmer saw in a vision in episode 2 and otherwise has not had any impact on this series.
Yes. But again, I'd say we'll put a pin in it and take note of which episodes David Lynch is involved with from now on.
Yeah.
Because I do want to say is that original intent, I keep circling back to that, of it's not meant to be about Laura Palmer's murder. So is it giving you the worst conclusion to that plot line?
Yeah.
So you can move on to everything else?
Yeah.
Okay, do we have anything else for this episode?
No, I don't think so.
Cool. Next time is Coma, because I remember this one, because it's nice and short, and is presumably about Renette or Leo, or both.
Anyone else who might currently be in a coma? I've lost track now.
If you'd like to get hold of us, our email address is thingsgettingstrange42@gmail.com.
You can also find us on social media, and please do hook me up if you would like me to present any of your Twin Peaks, X-Files or Garth Marenghi related stuffs at the start of this show. Be it conventions, fan events, zines, whatever you've got on the go. You can find us on Blue Sky and Tumblr at GetStrange42, and on Facebook by searching for Things Are Getting Strange, a Twin Peaks rewatch podcast. Additionally, if you're not sick of my voice right now, I also stream live on Twitch TV Mondays and Wednesdays at 8 PM GMT and Saturdays at 5 PM GMT. I'm currently playing Alan Wake Remastered, Life is Strange Reunion, and Dead Letter Department.
Our theme music is envisioned by Kevin MacLeod. You can find it on Comfortech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0. Thank you all for listening, and until next time, please remember,
hell of a way to kill a tick.